I say from my heart. First, I want to pay tribute to Diana myself. She was an exceptional and gifted human being. In good times and bad, she never lost her capacity to smile and laugh, nor to inspire others with her warmth and kindness.
The truth about Princess Diana's tragic death is finally out. For almost 30 years, the princess's tomb remained untouched. But when forensics finally opened it, what they found sent shockwaves around the world. The long-standing questions about her passing took a new turn as new evidence emerged, challenging everything people believed. What did they uncover within those walls? And what really caused the death of the people's princess? Join us as we unveil what was found 27 years after Princess Diana's tragic death. The unsolved mystery over Diana's death. The world screeched to a halt in 1997 when the news of Princess Diana's tragic death hit the media. As a beloved public figure, her passing in a car crash was deeply felt by all and sundry. But when inquiries were made, it was officially ruled as the result of an intoxicated driver losing control. But, from the moment the news broke, questions have never stopped popping, and there are no satisfying answers to them. Recently, a claim arose of a group of forensics opening up the princess's tomb due to heavy structural concerns, given that the location of the tomb is on a small island surrounded completely by water. The original plan was for Diana to be buried in the Spencer family vault at the local St. Mary's Church in nearby Great Brington. But her father, Lord Spencer, said that he was concerned about public safety and security and the onslaught of visitors that might overwhelm Great Brington. He decided that Diana would be buried where her grave could be easily cared for and visited in privacy by William, Harry, and other Spencer relatives. So that led to her being buried on the island in an ornamental lake known as the Round Oval within Althorpe Park's gardens. Although Diana is resting now, her death and the succession of events that followed had never truly sat well with royal fans. The news of her grave being opened has sparked a series of discussions that opened a new can of worms. Royal fans revisited the explanations given about Diana's death, and what they found about the cause of her death was beyond shocking. The generally accepted version is that her Mercedes limousine was crashed by Henri Paul, a chauffeur at Mohammed Al Fayed's Paris Ritz who was unused to driving the car, intoxicated by drink and drugs, and trying to drive through the tunnel at the Pont d'Alma far too fast for the camber of the road. Unwilling to accept the simple explanation of a fatal accident, the public began piecing together inconsistencies, strange coincidences, and disturbing claims. One of the most explosive allegations came from the man known as Mohammed Al Fayed, father of Diana's companion, Dodi Al Fayed. In 2008, he made a claim that shook the foundations of Britain's elite. According to him, Diana was pregnant with his grandson, and she and his son, Dodi, were planning to marry. Al Fayed claimed that the royal family, especially Prince Philip and Prince Charles, vehemently opposed the idea of Diana marrying a Muslim man, and so this opposition led to a sinister plot to eliminate Diana before such a union could take place. But in truth, this was only a spark that led to an even bigger fire. In a rather dramatic courtroom appearance, Al Fayed pointed fingers at some of the most powerful figures in Britain, including the late Prince Philip, the then Prince Charles, and former Prime Minister Tony Blair. His accusations didn't stop there. He also implicated Diana's sister, Sarah McCorquodale, two former Metropolitan Police Commissioners, and even the CIA. He suggested that a vast network of royals, government officials, and intelligence agencies conspired to prevent Diana from marrying Dodi. Rumors about the cause of Diana's death intensified after her embalming. Some suspected that the process was rushed to prevent any pregnancy tests. Conspiracy theorists were very much in favor of this and amplified the concern. But Operation Paget, a comprehensive investigation, examined blood samples from the crash scene and found no traces of pregnancy hormones. Although such hormones can linger in blood for some time, none were present in the samples tested. To add to the mystery, one of the possessions found after the princess's death was a letter written to her butler, Paul Burrell. The former royal butler, who was acquitted at an Old Bailey trial of hoarding the princess's possessions, revealed one possession that he had kept undisclosed through years of police investigations and media speculation. The letter appears genuine. It looks like her handwriting and has apparently never left Mr. Burrell's possession. It was written in October 1996, 2 months after the princess's divorce from Prince Charles, and reveals a strikingly self-pitying and paranoid mindset. In the letter, she wrote that she was longing for someone to hug and that she was in the most difficult phase of her life. She mentioned that someone had arranged a car accident for her in order to make way for Charles to remarry. She thanked Charles for putting her through the worst hell. The letter was explosive enough to rouse conspiracy theorists, who have never accepted that the princess and her companion Dodi Fayed were killed by a mere accident. Despite these concerns, Operation Paget found no credible evidence to support the claims of a planned assassination. In her famous 1925 BBC interview, Diana openly admitted feeling threatened by the royal family. While her words were chilling, they didn't prove a conspiracy. Still, for many, the circumstances of her death remain too suspicious to accept as mere coincidence. Another popular theory is that Henri Paul, the driver on that fateful night, was no ordinary driver. He was part of an orchestrated attack. Some believe he was secretly working for MI6. Richard Tomlinson, a former MI6 agent, claimed to have seen documents proving that Paul was on the intelligence agency's payroll. He also noted that Paul had vanished for 2 to 3 hours before the crash, fueling suspicions of a covert meeting or final orders. Despite earning a modest salary of $35,000 a year, Paul had nearly $250,000 in his bank account at the time of his death, plus a significant amount in cash. Tomlinson theorized that this money could have come from MI6, possibly as payment for his role in the alleged plot. Although 1 year after the tragedy, Tomlinson admitted his claim was speculative, but argued that if Paul had been an MI6 informant, it wouldn't be unusual for him to receive large sums of money. Operation Paget, however, investigated Paul's finances and found no direct links to intelligence agencies. Investigators concluded that his wealth likely had no connection to any conspiracy and that he did not possess the means to carry out an assassination. Despite these findings, doubts remain. Diana's death is one of the most talked about tragedies in modern history. And for many, the unanswered questions only deepen the mystery. What was MI6's role in the princess's death? Was MI6 truly responsible? When an analysis of the wreckage of the Mercedes was done, it revealed the car had glancing contact with a white Fiat Uno car, which left traces of paint on the Mercedes bodywork. The French police carried out extensive attempts to find the car, but were hardly successful. Although no one had seen the Fiat in the tunnel where the accident occurred, some witnesses reported seeing the car exiting the tunnel. Mohammed Al-Fayed, in his July 2005 statement to Operation Paget, and at other times, said that the white Fiat Uno was being used by MI6 as a means of causing the Mercedes to swerve and thereby crash into the side of the tunnel. Al-Fayed also alleged that the Fiat Uno was owned by a French photojournalist named Jean-Paul James Anderson, who was also an agent of MI6, who had photographed Diana while she was at his villa in Saint-Tropez. In 2000, Anderson was found dead inside his car, and authorities ruled it as suicide. But not everyone was convinced. Some, including a man named Alfred, suspected his death was connected to Diana's crash, hinting at a cover-up. Adding to the mystery, a witness named François Listria, who had been driving ahead of Diana's car in the tunnel, claimed he saw a sudden flash of light just before the crash. This fueled speculation that a blinding flash was deliberately used to disorient the driver. Former MI6 officer Richard Tomlinson supported this theory, stating that such bright flashes were part of MI6 training techniques designed to confuse drivers in targeted assassinations. However, Listria's wife, who was in the car with him, disagreed with his account. Despite these claims, Operation Paget concluded that no flash had occurred. A separate French investigation determined that Paul had been driving at high speeds while under the influence of alcohol and prescription medication, which likely impaired his judgment. The only survivor of the crash, Trevor Rees-Jones, supported these findings. Had even jokingly taunted the paparazzi waiting outside for Diana and Dodi. Investigators also revealed that none of the passengers, including Rees-Jones, had been wearing seatbelts, which may have worsened the impact of the crash. Despite the many conspiracy theories that followed, the official investigations into Diana's death concluded that reckless driving, excessive speed, and aggressive paparazzi played the biggest roles in the accident. There were further reports that reinforced these findings, showing that Paul's impaired state, combined with the pursuit of photographers, created a dangerous situation that ended in disaster. In the end, no matter how many theories emerged, the world was left to accept the painful reality of Princess Diana's tragic passing. But what really happened on the night of Princess Diana's death? And why does it still raise questions so many years later? The fatal night and the ceremony after. August 31, 1987, will always be remembered as a dark and tragic moment in history. The news that Princess Diana, a beloved member of the British royal family, had passed away shocked the world. People everywhere were in disbelief and deep sorrow. It was hard to accept that someone so full of life and loved by so many could be gone so suddenly. The sadness was even worse because of how she died. A terrible car crash in the Pont de l'Alma tunnel in Paris took her life, along with her companion Dodi Fayed and their driver, Henri Paul. The only survivor was her bodyguard, Trevor Rees-Jones, who was badly injured and had no memory of the crash. After the accident, news outlets rushed to piece together what had happened, but the details were as chaotic as the night itself. Earlier that night, Diana and Dodi had dinner at the Ritz Paris, a luxury hotel owned by Dodi's father, Mohammed Al-Fayed. To escape the constant attention of the paparazzi, they left through the back door around midnight, hoping to reach Dodi's home without being noticed. Henri Paul, the hotel's head of security, was driving the car. It was later revealed that he had been drinking before getting behind the wheel, which became a key part of the investigation. As they sped through the streets of Paris, they were chased by paparazzi on motorbikes. When they entered the Pont de l'Alma tunnel at high speed, their black Mercedes-Benz crashed into the 13th pillar. The crash was devastating. Witnesses described the wrecked car, the screeching of metal, and the eerie silence that followed. Emergency responders arrived quickly, finding Diana still alive. Paramedics worked desperately to save her as she was rushed to Pitié-Salpêtrière Hospital. Despite their efforts, she died from her injuries in the early hours of the morning. When the news broke, the world seemed to stop, and grief spread instantly. People gathered outside Kensington Palace, leaving flowers, lighting candles, and writing messages of sorrow. The streets of London were filled with mourners struggling to come to terms with the loss. Meanwhile, the royal family remained at Balmoral Castle in Scotland, mourning in private. Many people felt frustrated by their silence. They questioned why the Queen had not immediately returned to London to support a grieving nation. As pressure grew, the monarchy finally responded. Queen Elizabeth II addressed the public in a televised speech, but for many it felt too late and not enough. Diana's funeral on September 6, 1977, was watched by about 2.5 billion people worldwide. One of the most heartbreaking moments was when her two young sons, Prince William and Prince Harry, walked behind her coffin as it made its way to Westminster Abbey. The world mourned a princess who had given so much yet had suffered so deeply. It was during this time of global mourning that Diana's family made an important decision about her burial. They chose to lay her to rest at Althorpe Estate, the Spencer family home in Northamptonshire, to prevent her grave from becoming a public attraction. She was buried on a small island in the middle of a lake called the Round Oval. The ceremony was private, attended only by close family. The decision was made to protect her grave from unwanted attention, as people remained extremely curious about her life and death. Over the years, there were rumors about the site, questions about its upkeep, and whether any changes had been made since public access was restricted. Despite this, the Spencer family stood by their decision, ensuring it remained a peaceful place for her loved ones to visit. However, questions about Diana's life have never stopped flowing. One of the biggest sources of curiosity about Diana's life was her marriage to Charles. Many believe this played a role in the tragic path that led to her death. But how? The tragic marriage. Lady Diana Spencer was just 20 years old when she married Great Britain's heir to the crown, Prince Charles. There were an estimated 750 million viewers who watched the event on television. To those viewers, the ceremony looked like something out of a fairy tale. A dashing prince waiting at the altar for the shyly smiling bride, who emerged from a horse-drawn carriage wearing an impossibly gorgeous ivory taffeta wedding dress. The wedding was the dream of many. However, a lot of people ignored the warning signs in Princess Diana's marriage to Prince Charles. Even Diana herself, deeply in love, chose to overlook them, starting with Charles's famous response during their engagement interview. When asked if they were in love, he hesitated and said, "Whatever in love means." This statement raised doubts, but Diana remained hopeful. Charles was caught between marrying someone the royal family approved of and following his heart toward Camilla Parker Bowles. Diana, a young noblewoman, believed Charles was the right man for her. She listened to her father's advice to marry for love and ignored her own concerns. In March 1981, just months before their wedding, Charles went on a 5-week trip to Australia and New Zealand. Diana, seen crying at the airport, later revealed that her tears were not about his departure, but about a troubling phone call he had with Camilla before leaving. On July 29, 1981, the world watched their grand royal wedding, but behind the glamour, there were already problems. Before the ceremony, Diana found a bracelet Charles had bought for Camilla, engraved with their initials G and F. She also discovered other gifts meant for different women, which left her feeling hurt and betrayed. Overcome with pain and jealousy, she considered calling off the wedding. However, her father, Earl Spencer, convinced her to go through with it, fearing the shame a cancellation would bring. Some believe Charles chose Diana because she fit the royal image, young, from a noble family, and capable of giving birth to heirs. However, the fairy tale quickly fell apart. At their wedding, Diana made a small but bold choice. She left out the word obey from her vows, showing her desire to have her own voice within the royal family. But life as a princess was far from easy. She felt alone, with little support from Charles, who remained close to Camilla. The pressure of royal duties and constant media attention became overwhelming. Diana developed bulimia, struggling with self-worth. At one point, during her first pregnancy, she felt so trapped that she threw herself down a staircase at Sandringham House. Luckily, both she and her unborn child, Prince William, were unharmed. In 1982, when Prince William was born, it seemed to bring some happiness to their marriage. Charles was touched by Diana's devotion as a mother, and for a while, they appeared closer. But soon, Diana's postpartum depression set in, adding to her struggles. Despite this, she remained committed to her children. She broke royal tradition by bringing 9-month-old William with her on a trip to Australia and New Zealand in 1983, something unheard of at the time. Many admired her for this, though some criticized her decision. In 1984, Diana gave birth to Prince Harry. His arrival brought joy, but it also exposed cracks in their relationship. Charles, who had wished for a daughter, was disappointed, especially since Harry had red hair, which ran in Diana's family. Diana later said she had kept Harry's gender a secret during pregnancy to maintain a special connection with Charles. But his reaction to the birth made her feel even more unwanted, adding to her stress. Behind closed doors, the marriage was breaking apart. Charles's affair with Camilla and the pressures of royal life drove them further apart. But Diana's problems weren't just with her husband. Her relationship with the royal family was also tense. After her tragic death, many wondered what secrets did her passing reveal about this complicated royal world. But beyond that, how did Diana cope with her personal struggle when faced with royal duties? The People's Princess. Despite the immense personal challenges she faced, Diana absolutely refused to let adversity define her. If anything, the struggles only strengthened her resolve to make a meaningful impact on the world. She understood pain and isolation, and rather than retreating into her own suffering, she chose to extend her hand to those who needed it most. It was this relentless compassion that made her truly extraordinary. One of the causes closest to Diana's heart was the fight against HIV/AIDS. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, when misinformation and fear about the disease were rampant, many avoided any association with those diagnosed. Patients were stigmatized, abandoned, and treated as outcasts. But Diana, with her characteristic defiance of convention, saw beyond the fear and prejudice. In April 1987, she visited London's Middlesex Hospital, where the UK's first dedicated HIV/AIDS ward had been opened. The world watched in complete astonishment as she shook touch. She declared that HIV does not make you sick. She declared that HIV does not make people dangerous to know. You can shake their hands and give them a hug. Heaven knows they need it. Her advocacy did not stop there. She continued to visit hospitals, orphanages, and care facilities, comforting patients and using her influence to demand better health care and more compassionate treatment. She worked tirelessly with organizations like the National AIDS Trust and the London Lighthouse, bringing global awareness to an issue that many preferred to ignore. But Diana's humanitarian work extended far beyond the fight against HIV/AIDS. She became an advocate for the homeless, for victims of domestic violence, and for children in need. She often took William and Harry with her on visits to homeless shelters, ensuring that they understood the realities of life beyond the palace gates. She wanted them to see the human cost of neglect and poverty, and to grow into men who would use their privilege to help others. Needless to say, Diana's influence extended far beyond the walls of Kensington. As she went through her own personal struggles within the royal family, she at least found solace and purpose in her humanitarian work. The world saw her as more than just a princess. She naturally became a symbol of hope, a voice for the voiceless, and a beacon of compassion in a world often clouded by indifference. Her commitment to humanitarian causes was not a mere obligation of her royal status, but a deeply personal mission. Among the many issues she championed, one of the most groundbreaking was her advocacy for AIDS awareness. At a time when fear and misinformation surrounded the disease, Diana made a bold statement. She was photographed shaking hands with an AIDS patient without gloves, an act that shattered myths and helped reduce the stigma surrounding those suffering from the illness. Her actions were not just symbolic. They had a profound impact on global perceptions of HIV/AIDS and contributed to increased awareness and medical advancements in treatment. Diana's compassion knew no borders. She traveled extensively, using her platform to highlight issues that were often overlooked. One of her most defining moments was her visit to Angola in 1997, where she walked through a live minefield in support of the campaign to ban landmines. Wearing a protective vest and helmet, she stepped into a dangerous reality that many communities face daily. With time, the images of Diana in that minefield became iconic, drawing the world's attention to the devastating consequences of landmines on civilians. Her efforts were instrumental in the eventual signing of the Ottawa Treaty, which aimed to eliminate the use of these deadly weapons. Would her humanitarian work be completed if it didn't extend to children's welfare? Absolutely not. Diana visited countless hospitals, orphanages, and shelters, ensuring that every child she met felt seen and valued. She once described her greatest joy as simply sitting on the floor and playing with children, bringing them laughter and comfort. Her work with Great Ormond Street Hospital and other charities showcased her genuine desire to make a difference in young lives beyond the public eye. But even with her growing global presence, Diana remained deeply connected to her roots as a mother. She took great care in balancing her responsibilities, ensuring that her sons, William and Harry, understood the value of service. She took them to visit homeless shelters, making sure they experienced life beyond the luxuries of royal privilege. Diana wanted them to grow up grounded, compassionate, and aware of the struggles faced by everyday people. Her approach to parenting was unconventional for a royal, but it cemented her legacy as a mother who prioritized her children's emotional well-being above all else. Diana's ability to connect with people from all walks of life was a skill unmatched. She had an innate warmth that made everyone she met feel special. It didn't matter whether it was a terminally ill patient, a war survivor, or a grieving family. Unlike many public figures, she did not simply observe suffering, she immersed herself in it, determined to bring relief where she could. This authenticity was what endeared her to millions. Yet sadly, even as she changed lives around the world and shared happiness like candy, Diana's own search for happiness remained elusive. The palace still weighed greatly on her. It didn't help matters that the increasing media scrutiny made it difficult for her to move forward freely. Her relationships, friendships, and every public appearance were dissected by tabloids hungry for sensational stories. She once confided in friends that the very platform she used to help others had also become a prison. Despite the relentless and ever-present public gaze, Diana pressed on. But if the palace had tried to silence her, the world had done the opposite. It had given her a voice. Who is truly responsible for the death of Princess Diana? And will anyone ever embody royalty like she did? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.